What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. First, I just want to say shout out to everyone in Florida. I hope you guys are safe and are okay after Hurricane Ian. It definitely ended up being much more devastating than I think we all originally anticipated going into it. The location of it shifted and all that good stuff. So it definitely ended up being, I guess, different than what we originally anticipated. We being the weather people, not me, speaking like I'm a weather person. But it's just crazy. This was my first year down here, and experiencing a hurricane. Experienced one in Virginia when I was much younger, but I don't really remember much of it. But yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. But thankfully, I'm in a certain portion of Orlando that didn't get impacted. Got heavy winds, of course, and rains and all that, but nothing too devastating. It's amazing though, if you drive 5-10 minutes one direction from where I'm at, or 15 minutes a different direction, it's completely flooded. Right, like certain areas are flooded, like a lot of roads are still closed down, but my little area, we lucked out, so I'm very thankful for that. But I hope you guys are good. I hope you physically are okay, your items, your homes, everything like that are okay. It just sucks, and it's a different feeling being down here, but having a hurricane come through, but it kind of brings everyone together in a lot of ways, and it's cool to kind of see that too. So just shout out to everyone here in Florida, and hopefully, I haven't checked on it today, but last thing I heard, there was concerns that it may hit South Carolina, so I definitely hope you guys are safe up there, and I hope Ian just goes back into the oceans and just chills out there and, leaves us alone here in the States. But in, Cuba, Puerto Rico, everywhere who's been impacted by it. So just shout out to everyone. I hope everyone is good, and I hope maybe if you're able to listen to this, or whatever it ends up being, however long, it'll just take your mind off of the real world problems for a little bit. And that's why I got into wrestling. So we will, on that note, shift into the wrestling world, the better portion of the world right now. Today's show is going to be a little bit of a variety show. We're going to cover a lot of kind of outside the ring stuff that's been happening, and then look towards Extreme Rules. It's not going to be a prediction show because I have a good amount of topics I want to kind of, update the pod on and kind of touch bases on, and we definitely have some things from the AEW side that we need to address and just stay up to date on. So we'll definitely get into all of that, and then probably sometime after Raw. So maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday before Dynamite, depending, because I think Tuesday I'm going to try to go to NXT. So we'll see recording schedule-wise, but obviously some point this week, maybe later towards the end of the week, we'll get a prediction show out there for Extreme Rules, and we'll touch base on that, because we do have some new breaking news relating to, in addition to the Extreme Rules card, regarding one of the matches that's already been announced. So we will definitely wrap up on that as well, but I thank you guys for hanging out with me today and downloading, streaming, listening to the pod wherever you are. Hopefully we'll be getting back on the YouTube side of things here in the next few weeks, but at least for now we're pumping out some audio just to get back on track and just get back in the flow of things. I miss sitting down here and just kind of, like I said earlier, just escaping from the real world and just talking about wrestling. So with that being said, we do have a update starting here today with the Elite, regarding the fallout from the media scrum and all that bullshit that happened, maybe over a month ago now? Around a month ago? Time's a weird concept, as I always say. But it's regarding the Elite side of things. Of course, we don't have any developments from CM Punk, Ace Steel, what their status is or anything like that yet. Last thing we've heard on CM Punk was that he had his, I believe it was his elbow surgery or his tricep surgery, some type of arm surgery, obviously. But again, for whatever weird reason, this one's, excusable for sure, but AEW doesn't like to release or mention specifics when it comes to injuries, which is just kind of interesting to me. Again, I guess we don't really need to know, but it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of a different take, which I'm not used to. But anyway, regarding the Elite, and of course, shout out to my seems to be my go-to WrestlingPurist.com for their transcription of everything. And again, I'll shout out when they reference someone in their article. But the article that I'm reading is regarding the Elite, of course, stating on September 4th in Chicago, regarding AEW's annual All Out pay-per-view, the Elite became the inaugural AEW Trios champions, following the culmination of a tournament, which we all know, which was pretty good. And again, it's time, man. It's so weird. That just feels like a completely different world at this point. But they go on to reference, of course, the fallout that happened after the media scrum. They continue to say, as of this writing, neither the Elite or Punk have returned to the company, although Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has now provided an update on the potential reason for the Elite's suspension not having been lifted just yet, with potential legal action seeming to be the main hurdle the company have to get over first. They say, quote, regarding the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they all hadn't heard anything from the company, at least as of a few days ago. The company hasn't and won't address anything regarding pretty much anything these days on these type of subjects, but the belief is that their situation is on hold pending potential legal action, which, unless cleared up, could delay things for some time, and there's also a second holdup that hasn't been made clear, end quote. So, again, they go on to say, we never got specification on what the second holdup is regarding the Elite's return, and Kenny Omega for that matter. But yeah, it's pretty much a given. They go on to say that a lot of fans speculate that the trio would return to AEW, but then there's speculation that they could divide and end up in WWE. But me personally, I mean, just for the sheer irony of it all, I would be fucking fascinated to see Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks just make a grand debut in WWE, like the start of, what is it, 2000, is it 24? My god. Can you imagine the Elite and MJF all defecting? But whatever year it is, 24, 25, if they all just show up as a trio into WWE, it would kind of have, I mean, to a much grander scale at this point, but it'll kind of have a feeling and a callback feeling of when the Radicals departed WCW and debuted in WWF at the time. That, of course, was Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit. And we all, at this point, know what their individual careers went on to be. So imagine them at that level, right? What impact that went on to make. Imagine the Elite at a completely different level, right, than the Radicals were, impacting WWE. Like, you just think at that point, WWE could potentially have Cody Rhodes, which they obviously already do. He could be the champion at that point. MJF, depending on the year, right? Depending on the whole 2024, if this everything is legit, what he's been stating, he didn't sign an extension or anything like that. And then the upcoming arrival of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the Elite, the following year in 25. Like, that would be fucking insane. Obviously, I know we're way, way off before we even get to that realm, but just imagine, guys, that would just be bonkers. But it sucks that regarding the suspension and back in real world here, it sucks that the things can't be resolved because of potential impending legal action. I mean, I totally get it, right? You don't want to have a possibility of even showing any type of favoritism because let's say you bring back Kenny Omega and the Elite, or Kenny Omega and the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks back to TV. Whether it's just something minor, just a backstage thing, just regardless, if you bring them back to work and lift the suspension, and Punk is still suspended or whatever his situation is, that, you know, and again, it's really hard for us to speculate because we don't even know officially what is going on, right? But I get it. Long story short, I get it. It just sucks. Because this is valuable time. We just went however many months without Kenny. He just came back. They just were crowned the Trios champions, and they had to be stripped immediately after. So it just sucks, you know? Not to mention the whole CM Punk side of things, which I'm not going to get into here again, but I don't know. It just sucks, man. It just sucks. And to think back and to think that just a media scrum, man, just something like, I don't know, something that didn't need to happen that was just so unnecessary more and more. So looking back on it, in my opinion, or just could have been handled obviously much differently. And I would just love to know I would love to be like a fly on the wall in all these guys' rooms right now and just to see their perspective of it now and to see if there's any regrets on any sides. If, like, for instance, CM Punk regrets going on his little tirade there, which again was fucking entertaining for a pure selfish standpoint. But in the same token too, it was entertaining in the sense that it's something that has never been happened or has never been seen before, really, because it was real, you know. But at the same token, it sucks and it's sad, like I mentioned in the show recapping it, because it is real and it is real life and it's just something that didn't need to happen. That was not what the media scrum and the conference was intended for, right? So again, not going to go too much into it, but I did just want to at least mention the latest update here that we have, which is, I guess, not really much of an update, but it just sucks, again, that the Elite have to, and Punk rather, that this all can't just be resolved. And I say this on the outset, I'm sure it's 10 times more for them, but I just wish this all would be resolved at this point and just kind of be done with it. But moving on in the AEW world, we have another, I guess there's another update release regarding Malachi Black, but a kind of a new addition to the whole release side of things as well, and the whole release speculation from Tony Khan and AEW. It looks like Dave Meltzer, again, kind of had an update on that, and again, my direct... Hold on one second, guys. There we go. My page froze. But my direct source here, again, is from WrestlePurist.com. It's, again, in reference to Tony Khan not granting AEW releases, so they went on to say he, of course, is not looking to grant any AEW release requests anytime soon. The most notable one, obviously, is Malachi Black, who recently himself addressed reports stating that he had been granted a requested release by AEW or Tony Khan. Black took to Instagram Live to state that he has not been granted his release and he will be back in AEW soon after he has taken some time off. I'm not going to get into it again, but it's a shame that Black clearly needed to take time off for a lot of personal whatever reasons. It's none of our business, you know? Like, yes, earlier I stated that, you know, if it's a physical injury, for instance, right? Like with CM Punk, I don't understand why the initial injury, they couldn't just tell us, oh, he broke his foot. Like, why was that such a big secret and a big mystery? Like, why couldn't you just specifically say, oh yeah, CM Punk is out because he broke his foot? You know, he did address it when he came back, but it's like, why is it that big of a deal? So in that regard, yeah, I would just like to know. Maybe let me know, guys, if I am overreaching there, or if I'm just so used to, like, for instance, with WWE, like, if when a wrestler would go down with an ACL injury, they would put a quick blurb out there. For instance, I don't know why the first one that just came to mind was Matt Hardy. When Matt Hardy had his ACL tear and he had to go out for whatever it was, 6, 8, 9 months, they said Matt Hardy has suffered an ACL tear, whatever the exact diagnosis was. He'll undergo surgery and be out X amount of time, or he'll be out whatever, you know, he'll be out. So, and that's it. Cool. Gotcha. It's letting the fans know, hey, this dude's out for X amount of time. Obviously, they mean something to us if they're on our TV screen, so we're going to naturally wonder where they're at. And it just leaves the fans to speculate on something that doesn't need speculation on. So I just don't know why that bothers me so much either, but it's just a little thing to me that, I don't know. But on the flip side, and I bring that up to say, if it's a personal matter, right, and if it's regarding their mental health, things in their personal life, anything like that, we don't need to know. We don't need a Malachi Black going on Instagram Live and having to explain why he needs time off, you know? Like, all they needed to say was, he's stepping away, and which he did. He addressed that in the ring. He's stepping away to address personal matters, and that's it, you know? And again, it gives us, the fans, closure in a way, in a sense of peace, knowing that, hey, they're good in the sense that they're doing what's best for them at this time, and it's not a matter of, oh my god, like, they're being forced off TV, or they're not getting TV time, stuff like that, because especially with social media and all the journalists and people like me who have podcasts, like, we sit here and we speculate and we wonder, right? And if we don't at least get some type of idea, then we are left to speculate, and there are people out there who take it to further extremes and lengths than others. So, I don't know. Me personally, I don't need to know specifics, but I would just like an idea just so we know, you know what I mean? And again, let me know if you guys think I'm out of line there, but at least relating to the report and the not granting releases and things like that, Dave Meltzer specifically stated on the Wrestling Observer Radio that, again, Tony Khan will not be granting any releases soon. Quote, nobody's getting released. That's the doctrine. Tony Khan made that very clear, I guess, in the last couple of days. So now it's just Malachi Black, not being released. Buddy Matthews isn't being released. Now they may be back sooner than before, whatever. That's the situation. They both wanted to go and trying to get a way out. It's worded very weirdly, guys. Sorry. He said, let me go backtrack. He said that's the situation. They both wanted to go and trying to get a way out, and it's what we talked about last night. Got it. That's the decision that was made. It's to say it's hard and fast, and there'd be no way they'd ever give anybody a release, but I think it's pretty much the deal that if this happened in the other company, would those people get releases? And the answer is no. And they signed the contract. So basically now their option is to sit at home, and Tony Khan, can extend the contract if they sit at home or wrestle. So now they're going to wrestle. That was just very oddly worded, sorry. And again, it just because it would be like someone trying to transcribe the weird shit that I say on here, right? It's taking a blurb out of probably a whole 5-minute spiel of what he said. But yeah, long story short, and the gist of that, ain't nobody going nowhere in AEW anytime soon. You know what I mean? Unless I don't even know what it would take to get fired. And I probably don't even want to know. But I mean, I get it, like, I get both sides. I get someone, and I'll just use Malachi Black since this is the one that's being addressed here. Let's change the dynamic 100% here. Let's say it's nothing personal and it's all strictly business for him, and he's just not being used on TV the right way. His character isn't going how he originally intended. Things have changed since he first debuted there. He just wants out. Let's just go with that. Let's say it has nothing to do with anything personal, no injuries, no nothing like that. Let's just strictly stay with business here in my hypothetical world here for a minute, guys. Let's say it's just that, right? But in Malachi Black did mention at one point too that the reporting that he signed a 5-year contract is not true and it has never been true. But I'm pretty certain Tony Khan was the one himself who said on Busted Open that it was for 5 years. So I'm not really sure about that. So that was an interesting little twist there. But like if you're Malachi Black and you did sign a 5-year deal, and I'm Tony Khan, I don't think I would necessarily release you either, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, like, just because things have changed professionally, right, and Triple H is in charge now, and, that's your guy, and, Triple H would use you much better than the other regime ever would, obviously, because they, got fired, which is still fucking bonkers to me. Whoever fires Aleister Black, Malachi Black, whatever incarnation he is, Tommy End, at that point it's just I don't understand. But yeah, if I'm Tony Khan, I wouldn't either. You know what I mean? Like, tough shit, dude. Like, the business side of me, yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like, I signed you for 5 years. I hired you when you were fired. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that I'm the saving grace or anything in the Tony Khan side, but yeah, like, I saw your value. I wanted you here. Like, yes, maybe right now things aren't going originally as planned because with all the new additions here. But just let things play out, And I think right now things are kind of playing out. You know what I mean? Like, I think that with the removal of your CM Punk and the Elite and the change in the influx in the main event scene, I think within the next year going forward, I think a lot of positions are going to change and they're going to be up for grabs in that regard. So whenever Black is able to come back, and I would put no rush on that, and I'm not wishing him to rush to return. I hope he takes as much time as needed. I think things could go a little differently, I mean, of course, at that point, too, the Elite could be back, CM Punk could be back, and things could be drastically different in that regard as well, but I don't know, I feel like it's a turning of a new leaf in a lot of ways for AEW right now, so I think when Black is able to return, I think, and I hope, things will be different for him, and I think he'll get that push that he got when he first debuted, because remember, he demolished Cody Rhodes in short time. I forget, what was it, like 3 minutes or something? Like, it was very quick. So, I don't know. I think there's still something there, and I don't think it's a matter of Tony Khan not seeing anything in Black, because I think he obviously did, which is why he wanted to scoop him up as soon as he could. I just think Tony has so many tools on his tool belt right now, he doesn't know what to use first. So I think it's just a matter of that, and not trying to excuse anything, because on the flip side, again, if I'm Black, I'd be pissed and irritated too. Again, just in my hypothetical world, right, guys? If it's just business and TV time and storylines and shit like that, then I'd be frustrated too. I agreed to give you 5 years of my career, or whatever it was, with the hopes and the understanding that I would be pushed to this level, and things have changed. I get it, bigger stars come in, obviously, things happen, and then that's good for the company, but I can get being Black and being very frustrated on that side as well. So, and again, that's my hypothetical world, just saying if it was just solely that. Again, it's not. Malachi Black stated that specifically himself, that he just needed to take time off. So that's that, you know what I mean? But at least in the Tony Khan side of things, I don't blame him for not granting releases, right? If it's just a matter of, oh, you just want to go back to WWE, like, you know, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic because I believe he did at one point early on in the beginning of AEW state that he doesn't want anyone, kind of like the WCW thing, right? Like, if you don't want to be there, he doesn't want you there type thing. You know, he just wants, like, people that are going to be happy in the locker room. Like, he doesn't want to hold you against your will type thing. But I don't know. It's a weird dynamic, and it makes me happy that I'm not Tony Khan in this situation, because it sucks, you know, and it's a weird dynamic. So that is the latest on people essentially just not getting releases. And that kind of goes for Buddy Matthews as well. Buddy Matthews did kind of pretty much make a similar statement at an independent show recently, and he, I believe, is taking time off as well. So shout out to him, and just sending positive vibes and you know, good shit to him, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, like, before I move on here, guys, like, I couldn't imagine being a wrestler and not having the opportunity to just take off, like, a month, you know, or just, like, a few weeks, or just have, like, just some time to yourself and your partner, your family, you know, or just some alone time, you know what I mean? Like, the schedule's gotten much, I don't want to say easier, but has died down, a lot, especially since obviously the pandemic, but even the recent years as well, and especially on the AEW side of things, since they don't do live events. But for me personally, like, I am definitely that person that I need time to myself. It doesn't mean anything against anyone. I need time to decompress. I just need time to be in my head, or not be in my head. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine just being on the go for years and not really getting that mental downtime. So it just, shout out and props to all the wrestlers and the talent and the crew out there who just are on the grind almost 24/7, you know, in a lot of regards. So shout out to them. But again, on the AEW side of things, we have a huge addition to the women's division. That, of course, being Saraya. I hope I'm getting that pronunciation right. It's either Saraya or Saraya, and I think I've been saying Saraya, and I believe it's Saraya, so I hope I got that right. I was pretty confident going into it, but now as I'm saying, I'm like, maybe that's not right. But of course, we all know at this point she made her surprise debut on the September 21st edition of Dynamite. She came out right after Toni Storm was ambushed, following a successful title defense. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter pretty much had the advantage on Storm until Saraya made the save, but she did not do anything physical. So that was the big takeaway from that. She pretty much just came down and kind of gave like a group hug to Toni Storm. I'm blanking on the other individual who was in the ring with Toni at that point. Gosh, I'm blanking on that. It was just one of the things I didn't write down because I was like, of course I'm not going to forget. But yeah, I did, of course. Anyway, we did get a follow-up on that, and she made her, I guess, official debut live promo last week. But she really didn't clarify anything either. It started off pretty well, and then it kind of took a turn. Which me personally, I wasn't a fan of the way it ended. I was a fan of the beginning, her coming out, owning the place. Like, the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of the promo was great. But then it just kind of took a weird turn. Like, I wasn't a fan of bringing the women's division out. It just felt very Stephanie McMahon-like to me, in the sense, in like the authority sense. Like, you bring out the whole division to celebrate everyone's accomplishments. Like, that's not really it. Unless... excuse me, guys, unless she's going to be a general manager, right? Or she's going to be in charge of the women's division and she's going to be more of an authority figure type role, then that makes total sense. But we didn't get any type of clarification on that. We don't even know officially as a fan, unless you know, when I say officially, like, be a fan being like just the viewer, right? The casual viewer, not the person who is listening to this podcast or reading things online. If you're just watching the show week to week and not doing any extra research or anything like that, you still really don't know if she's going to wrestle. And I guess we don't either, right? There's still no official word that she's been cleared, which explains why she didn't do anything physical in her first two appearances. And especially, it was kind of obvious and notable, rather, that when the match started, she went back on commentary, which was cool. I enjoyed her on commentary, at least. I at least had enjoyed having her remain out there. But she wasn't even near the ring at all. So I think that was kind of notable as well. So that's just an interesting note to me. And again, it's one of those things I'm obviously hoping for the best, right? But I don't know, I have a bad feeling. But for me, like, I don't, and again, we don't know any specifics, at least I haven't seen anything yet as to the length of the contract that she signed, if it's going to be a long-term deal. I think there was kind of rumors and speculation floating out there that it was for at least a 3 to like 5 year deal or something like that, which again wouldn't surprise me if we know anything of Tony Khan at this point. But I don't know, like, for me, part of me is like, I don't think he would want to sign someone to what I'm sure is a good chunk of change into a nice term deal if you're not going to get anything wrestling wise out. Now, unless you're going under the mindset of just buying the brand of Saraya and potentially, or Saraya, sorry, or and potentially having like Falling in Reverse make a blanking. Why am I blanking? To do like a live performance for her. That's why I couldn't think of live performance, guys. But like if you want to do a live performance and things like that, but you wouldn't really do that unless she's gonna make her debut match, or if it's for a championship match or something like that. And again, not even that I'm solely advocating for that, but obviously her entrance theme, Zombified, is from her boyfriend Ronnie Radke and his band. So yeah, like I get why you would want her on your team, and of course she is part of the women's revolution in the WWE world and things like that, and she definitely was a pillar in that regard. But if she's not going to wrestle, I don't know, like she was pretty good in her general manager role in WWE after she had to retire, and I liked her in like the back. I forget the name of the show, but it was Backstage something with the one with CM Punk, Renee, Paige, and Booker T, I believe it was. Something to that effect. But there's just so much more, and obviously the goal for her, I'm sure too, is she wants to get back in the ring, and that's what she's been fighting for and working towards. And she had mentioned that. But yeah, like, I don't know. So part of me is, I'm not ruling out that she's not going to wrestle, and I'm not really too panicked on that yet. But if we go 6-8 months, you know what I mean, and there's still no reference of it, still no clarification of what she's doing, if she's in a managerial role, if she's a general manager, if she's just there to be everyone's friend, like, I don't know, like, I would hope at that point we would get some type of clarification, and I think we will. I think this is obviously just the beginning. We're just kind of in the feeling out stages, and until they get the official word, and it could be a matter of days, right? I could wrap up this podcast and we could get word today that she's cleared. So yeah, I'm on the optimistic side of this one, and thinking that it's most likely probable that she's going to be back in the ring. I think it's just, and I think that was what the intention was with Tony Khan as well, with signing her when he did. So yeah, I would be very shocked, I would say, if she's not going to be cleared and she doesn't end up wrestling for AEW. Moving on, and staying on the injury subject, we have a quick update here regarding Randy Orton, which is, it doesn't appear to be good news, which sucks, but we don't have any, like, concrete evidence or any concrete idea, rather, of when his return is going to be. Originally, it was reported that he was going to be out for the remaining portion of the year, and that was back in May, when we last saw Randy Orton, I believe. And at that point, like I said, they figured he'd be out for the remaining portion of the year, maybe come back around Rumble time, be ready for Mania season. Now, Wrestling Observer Newsletter through WrestlingPurists.com, so shout out to them again. They're reporting that there's still a lot of concern regarding Orton's back injury and its severity, which could be a huge blow, because Randy was so hot and he was just gaining more and more, I don't want to say momentum, but just popularity, and just being, it was a weird thing to kind of be a part of and to witness. He was just becoming more and more the face of Raw, at least, if not the face of WWE outside of Roman Reigns, outside of the championship world. Just kind of like a John Cena aspect, just being the guy that he's a huge star, he generates that huge fan reaction, and everything he does was just getting over, and he was a huge hand in helping Riddle get to where he's at right now. And if you notice, we've kind of weaned off of the Orton side a little bit more, at least from what I've noticed, and just more focused on just the hatred between Riddle and Seth, and not more so like on the Orton side of things. So, and I think that's pretty telling as well. But yeah, it sucks. Regardless, I hope, of course, we all hope that Randy Orton is doing okay and he gets better as soon as possible for his sake, because the back injury, man, like that cannot be fun. So yeah, I just hope he's good, but it sucks. Again, we don't know how much longer outside of the remaining portion of this year he's speculated to be out. But man, if it's a question of the severity of the back injury, then it's not looking good. Hanging on with WWE here, kind of will bleed in with AEW, WWE. Was an interesting news source from Fightful Select through, again, WrestlePurist.com. They went on to say, on quote, of course, regarding, this was back in the day when, the beginning of this year, which feels like lifetimes ago, Cody Rhodes was still in AEW, and there's speculation that he was leaving AEW for WWE, which of course he did end up doing, and we got that confirmation when he debuted on WrestleMania, of course. But it was interesting to see that apparently Warner Brothers Discovery had a hand in trying to keep Cody in AEW. The report from Fightful Select stated, quote, in speaking with Warner Brothers Discovery sources, we're told that several efforts were made within the company to retain Cody Rhodes in AEW. Between AEW, Rhodes to the Top, and Go Big Show, Rhodes had developed a good rapport with several in Warner Media at the time. They went on to state, despite speculation, Rhodes' WWE deal was not made official until a few weeks before WrestleMania, although it was noted that WWE considered the deal a foregone conclusion in the weeks prior. As a result, following the merger between Warner Brothers Discovery, inquiries were made by those outside of AEW specifically to gauge Rhodes' interest in staying within the company. Fightful then reported that among those that they said they had heard from that reached out to Rhodes was Sam Linsky, who serves as Associate General Manager and Senior Vice President of Scripted Original Programming for TNT, TBS, and True TV. It was notated that there was no ill between either side, with Rhodes reportedly stating that it was simply, quote, time to leave the territory. I love that he kept it in wrestling. In addition, Fightful also noted that due to Rhodes' connections across multiple Warner Brothers Discovery shows, they were also contacted over possibly participating in the upfronts, which I'm not sure what that is. Fightful were unable to confirm whether this was tied to AEW, the other shows, or a combination of both. Those at Warner Brothers Discovery that Fightful had spoken to stated that whilst they had loved to have kept Cody Rhodes as part of AEW, his departure wasn't a deal breaker for them keeping AEW as part of their weekly programming. Sources within the company also reportedly stated that they've been happy with AEW thus far, particularly emphasizing their rating successes this month. So again, if there's any concern with any AEW fans on AEW possibly losing their deal with Warner Media, Warner Discovery, Warner Brothers, whatever their new title is, I think maybe that can be put to rest here, but it is cool to see that they had a big hand, or at least tried to have a big hand in keeping Cody Rhodes. It just shows his star power again, and the big deal that he was, and the huge blow that it was. I don't know. Maybe not so much on TV, but I think structurally, and I think perception-wise, Cody Rhodes was very crucial and pivotal for AEW, so I am still in the camp that it was a big loss. But continuing on with Cody, he was approached by TMZ recently and provided an update on his injury status, claiming that he's unsure of a specific timetable due to those in power believing that he tried to be ready ahead of schedule. He says, quote, they haven't really given me one because they know I'm stupid and I try to test it. I have in my mind where I want to be, and I think a lot of fans have in their mind where I'd like to be. That's hopefully where it's at, what happens next, hopefully, and what we do, this is all speculative and up in the air. Hopefully it's a run people will remember, and I have to be healthy for it, end quote. I think that speculation is all Royal Rumble. I don't know what else it would be at this point. Royal Rumble to lead into Mania. It's just a given, you know what I mean? But not going to get into that right now. It goes on to say, Rhodes was then asked to comment on how he feels the company have treated him since his return, prompting him to state that the 3 months following his return were the best 3 months of his life. Quote, no complaints. They've treated me like the house that built me, which they were. Honestly, it's amazing. We were back, everything was rolling so fast, and then I tore my pec. It was like the best 3 months of my life. Hopefully we can get back to that soon, end quote. And then they go on to just wish him the best in his recovery, and that they look forward to his in-ring return. And that Rhodes made it clear that his sights are on becoming WWE champion, so that wraps up the TMZ article there. But that's cool. I like when TMZ stops and questions wrestlers and stuff like that. It just kind of gives them more credibility, you know what I mean? It's just cool to see them out in the mainstream world. As much as I fucking hate TMZ, I like it for the wrestlers aspect, at least. And wrapping up the show here, guys, of course, how can we have any type of return to the show or anything like that without addressing the White Rabbit and all the speculation going into Extreme Rules, and of course the new addition that we have to the lineup just, I think, dropped last night or early this morning, which we'll obviously get to here in a second. But as we all know, during WWE's recent shows and live events, fans in attendance have shared multiple videos of Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit song playing during commercial breaks, along with lights going out and turning red towards the latter stages of the song. Most recent episodes of Raw and SmackDown, these apparent teasers have been accompanied by a series of QR codes that have provided further clues into the identity and whereabouts of the White Rabbit. Although we are yet to truly discover who or what these teasers are leading towards, Fightful Select have now provided further insight to the series of teasers, noting that not everyone behind the scenes were originally sold on the QR code aspect. However, these original doubts now seem to have subsided following the success in creating for the buzz of for whatever the teasers are leading to. The report notes that WWE Creative have been largely hands-off with the segments, with the majority of those Fightful spoke to backstage being unaware of the small details that are involved. WWE higher-ups are believed to be in the know as far as the general direction of the teasers go, although the same can seemingly not be said for the majority of the talent. In terms of the expected date for White Rabbit's reveal, Fightful are reporting that she is expected to be revealed at the upcoming Extreme Rules Premium live event, although they're currently unaware as to whether they'll be physically present. Those in the know claim that WWE Extreme Rules was supposed to be the reveal of the White Rabbit. We were not told if the person portraying would be there physically or not, end quote. Whilst we're yet to discover the true identity of whoever is behind the cryptic teasers, multiple reports over the past few weeks have stated that the internal belief backstage is that Bray Wyatt is behind these segments, a sentiment agreed on by the majority of fans who have taken it upon themselves to try and decipher as many of the teasers as they can, which are just fucking amazing. And if you guys haven't, I would definitely recommend checking those out. No way I can really visually show you, unless I were to go back on YouTube right now, which I'm working on getting back onto, like I said earlier. But yeah, guys, it's just fun. Long story short, and the gist of it, it's just fun to be on this crazy ride, this mind fuck ride, right? Is the intention of it, with the White Rabbit and whoever it ends up being. Obviously, like I mentioned, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Bray. But I did hear I forget where I heard it from, so I'm sorry to not give you proper credit, but possibly like a Mustafa Ali. You know, he was and they didn't go into this, but it made me think back to, he was the, oh my gosh, what was it? That internet guy, the coder, oh, it's just escaping me now. But the guy who was pretty much setting up and was taking live videos that WWE was doing on SmackDown about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, right before Retribution and everything, or I think that bled into Retribution. So that could be a way, but I don't see Ali as more of the demented and dark kind of guy, unless that's the direction that they're going in, which could be interesting. But I just think it's obvious that it's Bray at this point. And I'm just so here for it. I was a big fan of The Fiend. Yes, there was a lot of things that made you kind of twist your head and roll your eyes at. But I think that was all with the booking, and I'm hopeful under the new regime that they will allow him to have more creative freedom in a lot of regards and allow things to make more sense and to actually tie together. But in the same token, too, be that control and have that hand to guide properly and to, I don't know, just keep the train on track in a lot of ways. And I think that's the perfect combination. I think you need a creative genius and a creative madman like Wyndham Rotunda. And I think you need someone like Triple H who knows the business and they can just morph together and get Bray to an Undertaker type level. Because I think that there's still hope for that in my mind. There's still a possibility for that. So yeah, I may be completely off there and you guys may think I'm crazy, but that's just my mindset. But wrapping up with Extreme Rules here, I would be remiss to say if I left out that Daniel Cormier, UFC Hall of Famer, is scheduled to referee the WWE Fight Pit match between Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins, which is fucking cool. He had always had once and had always made no bones about it that he's obviously been a WWE fan, and he eventually wanted to go into the WWE world. And I think this is his first step, right? And it's very exciting to see just his inclusion, and I think it just makes perfect sense. So yeah, I'm fucking stoked for it. Apparently, him and Seth are good friends, or not good friends, but are friendly, and have had friendly exchanges in the past. And then we all know, of course, Matt Riddle's history in UFC and in the fighting world. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic, and I can't wait to see what they address, or the follow-up rather, on Raw. It was broken by Ariel Helwani that Daniel Cormier was going to be the special referee, and then WWE essentially did like a quote tweet or something like that and said that more information would be released on Raw, which is tomorrow night. So we'll obviously get more information there, but I'm very excited for that edition. I think it's really cool. And yeah, I just think it brings more of a fight feel to it, obviously, pun intended. So with that being said, guys, we are going to wrap up the show here today. Like I said, we will be back in touch and dropping another show at some point this week to do the prediction show, rather, for Extreme Rules and whatever other crazy news breaks in this wrestling world. But thank you guys so much for listening. Stay safe, have a great weekend, and take care.